You have exactly 3 seconds to like and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, I'll appear in your dreams tonight. To ask for a donation for that cup of coffee, link below.
With a little observation, we can easily see that Russian tanks are usually about 5 mm lower than tanks from other countries around the world. While the British Challenger 2 tank is 2.49 m tall, the German Leopard T5 is 2.64 m tall, and the American Ma-2 Abrams is 44 m tall. The Russian T-90 is only 2 m tall. In fact, Russian tanks have long been world-renowned for their low profile and compact size, yet excellent performance. Soviet T-72 tank, also very small, 41 m long, 4.6 m wide, and 2.1 m high, making it the shortest and most famous tank at the time. The Soviet Army was equipped with T-82 tanks, which were improved versions of the T-72 tank. Despite significant upgrades to its weapon systems, armor, and engine, the T-82 still retains its low, compact design. The Russian Army began equipping itself with the T-90 tank, which is only 7 m long, 4 m wide, and in 1998, the International Arms Assessment Committee selected the T-90 tank as one of the 10 best tanks in the world. And by then the tank had been further improved with a height of only 2. There are many reasons why Russia produces these low-profile tanks. Let's take a look at the design styles of Russian and Western tanks to see how they differ. The former Soviet and Russian armies prioritized both quality and quantity in preparation for total war with extremely large troop numbers. Soviet, Russian tanks are characterized by their compact size and minimized surface area. The armor was made very thick, yet the overall weight remained very light. In particular, they must be produced quickly, cheaply, and in large quantities to provide timely firepower to the battlefield. This reminded the military expert of the case of the T-34. Vietnamese people often affectionately call it the cockroach because of the incredible resilience of this legendary tank. Overall, it doesn't have one thing that's the best, but it does a decent amount of everything. The T-34 is extremely reliable, has very low production costs, and is highly mobile. This tank series also had a simple design, making it easy to maintain and mass produce. If a T-34 was, the Soviet Union could produce many more thanks to its tremendous industrial power. It can be said that the Russian military doctrine and technology regarding tank manufacturing were most successful, especially in the final stages of World War II. On the Western side, tanks of the European-American style are usually large and very heavy, except for the Japanese Type 10, which weighs 48 tons. Most others weigh long rectangular turrets due to the ammunition compartment being located behind the turret. While American tanks may not be as highly regarded for their practicality as Soviet tanks, one thing is certain: Soviet tank crews never had the same comfortable lives as American tank crews. American tanks typically have spacious interiors, are well finished down to the smallest detail, and are comfortable and fully equipped. But modern technology consumes a lot of electricity, and the large size of the vehicles, along with their many complex components, has led to numerous problems. Slow to produce, and difficult to repair and maintain in battlefield conditions. While Soviet designers preferred to create small, low, and lightweight tanks, Western tanks became increasingly larger and heavier throughout the latter half of the 20th century, with notable exceptions to this trend being the Leopard 1. And this partly explains why the tanks of these two extremes differ so much in appearance. So what specific advantages did the designers of the former Soviet Union and Russia see in using low-profile tanks. As we all know, the combat capabilities of a tank are its defensive capabilities and mobility. The Russian military believes that reducing the size of the vehicle will lessen its risk in combat. In addition to reduced costs and ease of mass production, the Russian tank's short and lightweight design gives it a mobility that larger tanks cannot match. At the same time, they also make themselves a very difficult target. Why? Because the smaller the tank, the harder it is for the enemy's anti-tank weapons to hit it. Another point to note is that the operational area of the former Soviet Union and present-day Russia is Europe, especially Eastern Europe. The terrain in this area is relatively flat, so with its low profile, the tank can remain safe from enemy view. Moreover, muddy terrain in general has always been a hallmark of Russia. The summer is relatively dry, but very dusty. When autumn arrives and the rain, everyone bathes in mud. Winter arrives, bringing snow everywhere and hindering motor vehicles. And when spring comes and the snow melts, it's even more terrifying than the autumn rain. That's why a compact vehicle that can navigate all kinds of mud is such a great idea. Even if it gets stuck and needs time to get through the mud, its modest height will temporarily blind enemy reconnaissance forces, making it very difficult for them to see the Russian tank from a distance. If Russia had continued to build battlefield monsters like those of Nazi dictator Adolf Hitler, their predecessors would probably have been wiped out at the start of World War II. As you may know, most countries that participated in World War II had at least one heavy tank in their military arsenal. Hitler was clearly aware of the importance of tanks, so he ordered his military engineering team to create a heavy tank that would stand on top of all other adversaries. With this in mind, the initial design of the Panzer WWII Mass emerged in 1941 and was completed by the end of 1944. The finished vehicle weighed 188 tons, was 10.2 m long, 71 wide, and 3.63 m high. What a massive physique. This has put it at a disadvantage, especially when crossing bridges with weak load capacities. A tank like the Maas would certainly have struggled to cross many of the bridges in Europe at that time, and crossing rivers would have been even more difficult. Just imagine a tank weighing nearly 200 tons falling into a river. The time it would take to salvage it alone would have put the Nazis several steps behind their opponents. If the Maas had been deployed in Western Europe, I believe it would have become a juicy piece of meat for the Allies to pounce on. Standing tall like a house made of iron, who could possibly fail to notice its presence? There, only two are framed. One tank is on display at the Kubinka Tank Museum in Moscow, while the other was destroyed because the Germans did not want it to suffer the same fate. Russian President Vladimir Putin was once asked, why doesn't Russia build larger highways in the western part of the country? Putin has said that Western forces would have difficulty accessing Russian cities without highways. Indeed, they would need to constantly refuel their tanks to cross the vast Russian landscape, and the swamps would be a nightmare for the large, modern Western tanks. For example, the American M of Abrams tank. Its enormous weight, ranging from 60 to 73 tons depending on the version, necessitates specific operating conditions, such as bridges, roads, ferries, or even the inability to operate effectively on very soft ground, making troop movements extremely difficult, even without significant enemy resistance. If the US intends to deploy its armored units across Russian terrain to engage Moscow, it is highly likely that its excessively heavy tanks will become easy targets before the engineering corps can complete the road construction. The advantages of this design are clear, but what about the disadvantages? The biggest weakness of this low-profile tank design is the limited visibility for the crew. And the tank also has difficulty overcoming obstacles on the battlefield. This was immediately evident in the world's shortest guided missile tank, the Soviet Union Subject 75, produced to make it more difficult for the enemy to hit on the battlefield. The Object 775 was designed with a height of only about 1 man lower than other tanks of the time. The turret was designed in a flat disc, making the vehicle difficult for the enemy to detect and hit, but it severely limited visibility. climbing hills or navigating rough roads also feels challenging. The Object 775's crew consists of only 2 people, driver, commander, and the missile gunner. Its design also differs from traditional main battle tank models. The crew sits in a fixed, enclosed compartment within the turret, causing it to rotate with the turret when the tank maneuvers. Object 75's main gun does not use conventional ammunition but is only equipped with guided or unguided missiles. These missiles are fitted into an automatic loading system, which reduces the role of the gunner and shrinks the size of the combat compartment on the vehicle. Clearly, the low profile and cramped interior of the vehicle certainly wouldn't make tank crews feel comfortable while on duty. To overcome this limitation, the Russian military has implemented various measures to increase the vehicle's interior space. First, change the turret design. They changed the traditional hemispherical turret design, with the aim of increasing the vehicle's interior space. Secondly, change the location where ammunition is stored. Older Russian tanks had ammunition storage compartments in the turret and under the tank crew's seat, which not only endangered the soldiers but also took up a lot of space in the tank's compartment. In modern tank, designers have overcome this weakness by moving the ammunition compartment to the rear or underside of the turret, completely separate from the crew, as on the T-foot, in case the ammunition compartment explodes, directly affecting the survival of all soldiers in the tank. Previously, Moscow had also learned quite a few painful lessons for failing to improve in this area. Having a large number of rounds of ammunition stored inside the turret would leave Russian tanks vulnerable even to indirect fire from the enemy. That shot could trigger a chain reaction inside the vehicle, causing all the ammunition stored inside approximately 40 artillery shells to explode simultaneously. The heat wave from the explosion was strong enough to blow the tank turret as high as a 2-story building. Western armies recognized this phenomenon during the First Iraq War in 1991 and the Second Iraq War in 2003, when large numbers of Russian-made T-72 tanks suffered the same fate. Their turrets were blown off the hulls after being hit by anti-tank missiles. Despite its many drawbacks, neither you nor I can deny the effectiveness of the low-profile tank design, to the point that it became a strong inspiration for the Swedish army to create the world's lowest tank, the Stridsvagn, also known as the S-tank. Because the Soviet Object 75 tank model, which 74 tall and was just introduced above, was not put into mass production, the title of dwarf was given to the Stridsvagn 103. This Swedish main battle tank has a unique, unconventional design. It lacks a turret. That's why it only reaches a height of 9 meters. As you can see, because it lacks a turret, its main gun is mounted directly to the hull and cannot move up and down or left and right like the guns of other tanks. So, take a moment to think for 5 seconds and try to guess how a gunner aims at a target when the cannon is immobile. There really is no solution to this problem. You absolutely have to turn the entire vehicle if you want to destroy a target. If you want to change the elevation or lowering angle of the gun barrel, you can use the suspension system of the wheels. That's why the enemy is both afraid and amused when they see the Stridsvagn 103, because when it fires, the tank looks like a dancer swaying and dancing. Thus, the problem of moving the artillery's aiming mechanism was solved. However, the military engineers were genuinely concerned about one thing, because the gun was firmly attached to the hull. The vehicle could not be fitted with aiming and stabilization systems for the gun. This would render the Stridsvagn 103 unusable while on the move, or when selecting a firing position. It would require choosing a relatively flat location. Furthermore, firing at targets that are too low or too high above the vehicle is impossible, as the suspension system can only move within a limited range. That concludes our journey for today. Hopefully, this video has helped answer your question. Why are Russian tanks shorter than Western tanks? It's not because Russian men are shorter or lighter than men in Western countries. Please share this knowledge with your friends and family if you find it interesting. Don't forget to subscribe to the KTQS channel and leave comments below with any interesting questions you'd like us to explore in future video. And now, Viet Cong bids you farewell and hopes to see you again.